everyone. Good morning. It's Sarah here of the Sisters Enchanted, and it is a full moon. Did you guys see it in the sky last night? It was so very beautiful. I'm just going to share this video into our Expedition to Soul crowd so that they're able to see it because it pertains to them. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So good morning, and if you are here in the States or in North America and you're on the West Coast, I hope for your sake that you are still sleeping. And yeah, maybe not up to watch this. Let's see here. I'm going to share this right here. We're good to go. Morning, Ellie and Cinnamon. Ellie, your day is already underway. Cinnamon, good morning. Michelle. All right, so it's a Gemini full moon. Expedition to Soul starts tomorrow. And yeah, so much goodness. Let's talk first about this Gemini full moon. Now, those of you that are maybe, Christina, I know Adam had me up at 5 a.m. Actually, Adam and Scarlett both. It's going to be a long day. Those of you that are in our astrology class or have ever taken our free astrology class or, our Expedition astrology students, you guys know that how we feel here about hypiness and all this stuff, and there's so much cool stuff that happens in astrology and with the moon and in numerology and all of these things, that there's always something, it seems like, right, with every moon, everything that comes up, that there is some reason to be really like, oh, this is the really best one ever. Now, this Gemini full moon, it's getting a lot of hype for being on 12/12 at 12/12 a.m. So that 12/12 a.m. piece is only if you're in the Eastern time zone, right? That's at 12/12, which is still pretty cool because it's at 12/12 somewhere. Everybody else in the world, though, it's at a different time for you. So I love to see all these really cool synchronicities, and that's definitely a cool synchronicity. I mean, this year was a 3-year numerologically. 12 breaks down to a 3. There's so much there around creativity and joy creation and lots of synchronicity for sure. But I always want to tell people to look at what it means for you. So we get so many questions here at the Sisters Enchanted about, like, what does one do for something like this, right? And I'm always like, well, generally speaking, just like celebrate life at a full moon. But what does it mean to you? What do you feel like you need right now? So it is the last full moon of this decade, which is also pretty cool. When we look at the calendar months and solar years, this is the last one of this solar year for us. And what do you feel like this year was about for you? So Gemini is this chatty, being with people, talking with people sort of energy, right? And how did that play out for you this year? Where's Gemini in your birth chart? Those are always the good questions to ask. So for example, for me, Gemini is my 12th house, is in Gemini. And my astrology friends here will know that we refer to that, and Nick and Anna teach it as it's like the locked closet in your basement, right? It's the things that you maybe don't want to face about yourself. It could be things you just don't want other people to know them. You don't want to say them out loud. It's very subconscious sort of stuff. So for me, having Gemini, having the moon in Gemini, the moon is subconscious stuff. It's this inner stuff that maybe you don't want to face also, or that just comes out without you. Like when you're at your most emotional, maybe you're, Nick likes to say, backed into a corner. So Ellie's born under Gemini. So if you're a sun in Gemini, how does that relate to you? Christina's a Gemini ascending, rising there. Very cool stuff. So yeah, mine's my 12th house and my Chiron is in there too, my wounded healer. And what's been really interesting for me is that it does seem very synchronistic, the kind of stuff that really pops up for you as you are and then you look at the astrology and you're like, wow, that was some timing. Is it me or is it the planets? Who knows? But for me anyway, I've been seeing a lot recently, this lunar cycle in particular, about how I really help like enable other people I always want other people's lives to be easier. I'm like, how can I make your life easier? How can I accommodate you? Often at the detriment to myself. Most often at the detriment to myself in like every circumstance, whatever the circumstance is. If somebody is asking something of me, I want to make their life as easy as possible. And in turn, my life usually gets harder some way. And that's in like every decision ever. And for me, really thinking about this lunar cycle, I'm a Sagittarius sun. Sagittarius and Gemini are opposites. So, and I also have a Sagittarius stellium. So I do not love Gemini energy. And of course, like Ellie, I love you, and Christina, I love you. So like for me, Gemini energy inside of me is not my favorite. And being in my 12th house, it's something I definitely like, don't want to, it's like in. And so anyway, I've been really seeing how I do that, right? And how don't heal myself, but I heal other people. Also, what's interesting for me is with Gemini being this like talking to people, social kind of sign, this year, interestingly enough, for me, this 3-year has been a year that I have grown some amazing friendships and social situations. Talking with people are actually, might be surprising to you, is not my strong suit, which a lot of people I think don't really believe, but it's not. It's like really, I have to like really take some deep breaths and be like, okay, I'm gonna go be social now. And I've had some really amazing friendships start this year, and this whole thing around this 3-year, this Gemini moon, the 12-12, whatever. When I look at that, for me, I see this as this that joyfulness that comes with that. So I'm looking at this as like, wow, I've learned a lot this year. And this is how my year, this has probably been the thing that's been the most joyful of my year, is creating some adult friendships. So that's been really cool. So when you look at this full moon anyway, look at where Gemini is in your birth chart. You can find your birth chart online for free and look it up. And Christina says my Scorpio and Scorpio stellium squashes it. Anna's a Scorpio rising. Dun, dun, dun. So yeah, the Scorpios. I guess I like the Scorpios. All the coffee on this day. Anyway, so Gemini, yeah. Gemini adult friendship. I guess that does sound weird, but it's hard making friends as a grown-up. It's really hard because what do? You like adults all day long. So make friends with. Anyway, so the Gemini full moon, yeah, last one of the decade here. I would look back at your year and also look at where Gemini is in your birth chart and what's in there, if anything's in there. Like I said, for me, that's my 12th house is ruled by Gemini, is in Gemini. Is that how you say that? And my Chiron is in there. And Gemini, again, it's opposite Sagittarius. So we can feel some contradiction right now too. If you feel a little bit of like push and pull on yourself, like you're not quite sure, like, am I being too emotional? Am I overreacting? Or like, should I chase this thing, or should I just like stick with what I'm comfortable with? If you're feeling at odds about anything right now too, that totally makes sense, because the sun and moon are different energies, right? They're external and internal, and Sagittarius and Gemini are opposite energies. So they're not like, they don't play well together. And you can actually find with these energies that this happening, the Gemini full moon and the Sagittarius sun, it wouldn't be uncommon, or I wouldn't be surprised if you found yourself in arguments with people. Like, those arguments where everyone insists they're right, and you're like, no, I am right 1000%. There's no way, you're just a moron. And then that other person is like, no, I'm right and you're a moron. Those arguments where you're both like, you're both standing your ground and everyone's an idiot but you. That's the kind of thing that can actually happen under this Gemini full moon with Sagittarius sun thing happening. So I feel like, also there's all this stuff going around about like this last full moon of the decade and 12-12 and 12-12 and whatever, that there's a lot there that's not being mentioned. So beware of that, because this full moon can definitely bring those things up for sure. Hi, Nick. Christina says that was me last night. This could totally be a thing. Surprisingly, things have been going well in my house, which is interesting, because anytime there's like a stoking of a fire like that, we're like the first ones to be like, oh yeah, we'll make that fire bigger. So things have been pretty like okay. Anyway, so yeah, Gemini full moon, last one of the decade. You can, we want to release and manifest both with the full moon. It's certainly not about just release. I also hear a lot about releasing at the full moon. The full moon is a bright energy. It's like, you have light at day and night under a full moon. You want to like manifest the heck out. You want to dance and be alive. And it's not just like releasing what needs to be. It's looking at why are you releasing it. So what did you try to bring in during your lunar cycle, and how were you not able to bring that? Like what happened to not be able to bring that in? And then what do you need to release so that you're better prepared to do it the next lunar cycle? So it's more than just release. Speaking of which, I have my living your lunar year here. And I track lunar cycles, like what's happening for me throughout the cycle. And then I did our Yule spread last Friday, and I really thought about how I need just space for all the things. I need to let things go in every area of life that's not giving me space to breathe. And I did some little art with some Crayola watercolors and the worst paintbrush ever. I'm not an artist by any means. My daughter and I sat down and played with some watercolors together, and this is my visual representation of space for myself. I don't really, yeah. That was me attempting to be artistic. Anyway, so do something fun under the Gemini full moon. Enjoy it. And we are kicking off Expedition to Soul tomorrow, and we will be actually spending one whole day talking about moon signs. I think that's our day 5 of Expedition to Soul. Alicia says, nope, not letting that happen. I'm going to be the better person and not say a word. See, when you're woke to the astrology, you can make better choices. Like this is the moon. It's not you. It's not me. It's the moon. It's the planets. We're going to just move past it. Morning, Jenny. So Expedition to Soul kicks off tomorrow. If you're not signed up, make sure you get signed up. You won't get the emails for it if you're not signed up. And I'm going to go through the field guide a little bit right now. And then tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern time, we have our first official kickoff call. Emails will go out before then. You'll have videos and all sorts of good stuff. So the first thing, when you sign up for our Expedition to Soul, it's free. It's totally free. And I'm not kidding, probably the best thing that I've ever created for the internet. Ever. You get your field guide when you first sign up. And you get your field guide, and it's pretty much to prepare you. So you can start working on it right away, or you can do this kind of in conjunction with everything else you do over the 7 days. The first page is some journal prompts for you, and it's really just to get you thinking. So the first thing is, who is the quester? This is you. And I want you to think about where you are right now. Where you are right now, how do you feel, what questions do you have, and just start thinking about who am I. So the whole point of Expedition to Soul is not for me to tell you how to find your soul's purpose or what your soul needs from you right now. And what better time to do this than the end of the year, right? And at a full moon, when we're like reflecting, the next 2 weeks is all about reflecting, relaxing, like what's happening, what can I do better next time, and receiving that message. And that's what we're going to be doing in Expedition to Soul. So what I create here is the container for you to receive what needs to be received. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. I'm not going to tell you what your soul's purpose is. And this changes. It changes as we change and we grow and we experience and we learn. So what this is about is me giving you the stage to be your own star and figure out what this means for you. So Expedition to Soul, it's going to be a little bit different for everybody. So the first thing that I was thinking about, well, who even am I right now? And that's such a hard question for a lot of people to answer, particularly people who have very full lives and you think like, oh, that's easy because I have a full life. I have a job. I have a partner. Maybe you have kids. Maybe you have friends. Maybe you have pets. Like whatever your thing is, you're like, I have all these things. But that's all this outward stuff. Like, who are you? What do you want? How do you interact with all of these things? How do they make you feel? How do you see yourself in the future? How is this lining up to how you saw how you thought you were going to be? Think back like 5-10 years ago. How did you think you were going to be on this day? And how are you different? and really thinking like, well, who am I in the mix of all of this? Yeah, crazy. That's big questions, very big questions. I love for people to think about what this quest might look like for them. I present it as a quest, but obviously it can be done right there in your home. One of the thing that really inspired me to do this was really social media, because I see so many people on social media, and social media is such a cool tool because I wouldn't be here talking to you without social media. But it's also something that can really make you feel like, oh, like I want that. I'm not good enough. I can't do that. And I see so many people going on these epic trips to like other countries, and they're like, I have this grand awakening moment in X, Y, and Z location. And I'm like, I'm over here with my 2-year-old and my 5-year-old attached to my hip, and I can't just go do that. And that's really, it's like a big bummer. But then I was like, no, you don't have to do those things to have these big moments. You can do this right where you are in your natural environment if you just slow down to have the experience. And that was really what inspired Expedition to Soul. So thinking about what this might look like for you. Why do you think you're here on this journey? And if you have no idea why, if you're like, I don't know, I just clicked a button and ended up here, that's fine too. Say, I don't really know. I'm just here. Let's figure it out. Let's see what this is all about. If you foresee any challenges that might get in your way with completing the 7 days, watching the videos, it's always really good to think about those. I talk about this a lot in our Society of Business Witchery program, is figuring out what's going to get in your way to begin with, and then you can plan for that. So if you know that you're like, okay, I'm definitely going to watch these videos, I'm going to do the journal prompts, I'm going to do all the things, but you're like, I'm going to do it at 10 o'clock at night, yet you always fall asleep at 9:45 on the sofa, that's going to be a challenge. So what can you do instead? Like, how can that be different? Look at what might get in the way of you completing this, and then try to head it off at the pass if you can. And believe me, I know life gets in the way. My life gets in the way all the time. And what do you think you might discover about yourself along the way? Anything in particular you're predicting, and the real reason for the quest will inevitably reveal itself. And it could just be that you just wanted to explore. Maybe the reason for your quest is just to create space to explore who you are. Maybe you have this like big soul-defining moment. Maybe you receive an intuitive message. Maybe you realize you're freaking as intuitive as hell and never realized it, and all these good things come out of Expedition to Soul. I love watching the threads and seeing what people are doing in the group. So if you're on Facebook, check out that group and you can play around in there, and we'll do threads every day. I'm going to download this and upload it and send it out, because we do have a lot of people registered that don't use Facebook. So I will send this out. If you're one of those people watching, don't worry, we will let you know how you can share your journey as well along the way. You totally don't have to be on Facebook to do this. Although right now I'm speaking to Facebook. Some things to look out for: your shadow self. So our shadow selves tend to pop up when we're least expecting it. Whenever we're doing something really juicy, our shadow selves will pop up. Or if we feel really afraid, I feel like there's two kinds of fear. There's our life-saving fear. That's a lion. I shall not approach the lion because it's going to eat me. Like, that's a good fear, right? We want to listen to that fear. But the fear of hitting live on a Facebook Live, the fear of making a phone call about a job that could possibly be life-changing for you, the fear of, we have a lot of tarot card readers and creators and healers and people that do amazing things in the world in our community, but the fear of networking, the fear of getting your website put up, these fears, those are the fears that you have to stare in the face and just move through, right? They're there for a reason. They're there to see if you're going to do it. But that's your shadow self. Your shadow self will do all these tricky things to you when fear pops up. And if you're feeling fear about something or feeling uncertain, be aware of that, your shadow self coming up. Judgment, guilt, anything we deny about ourselves, but actually really rings with truth. Keep your eyes peeled for this stuff, because it might come up when you are doing this Expedition to Soul, because we never want to see what it is about ourselves that is holding us back, right? I had this conversation with my husband the other night, and we were just talking about some stuff in our lives, and I was like, no matter what happens, you only control yourself, and all you can do ever, even if somebody else was totally at fault, all you can do really is say, how can I handle that differently next time? How can I be better next time? How can I back out faster next time? We can't control other people. And our shadow selves, though, during this experience, A lot of people will have things happen where they're like, oh, well, I can't do it, or my spouse, my father, my mother, my sister, my friend told me I was crazy and that this didn't make any sense. And that's all opportunity for us. So keep an eye out for that. Keep an eye out for your intuition to grow, your higher self, spirit, whatever you want to call it, to show up. And any moments of true joy, true knowing, and you don't know why you know, keep an eye out for that. Moments of clarity, comfort, like this is it for me. Those are all things to keep out for. So I encourage everybody, if you're doing Expedition to Soul, to pack a quest pack. If you do live somewhere where it's you're able to go outside this time of year, a backpack or like a tote bag might be nice because you can actually go outside. I can go outside, but it's quite cold. It doesn't mean I can't go outside. It just takes a little extra effort to get out there. But if you even if you're just going to stay in your house to do this activity, or like at your lunch break at work, I love the idea of having a pack, like a basket or something, so that you are ready to go. If I give you a tarot spread and you're like, I can't find my tarot deck, can't find my journal, I can't find a pen, I can't find all these things, it's going to make it even harder for you to actually do the things I tell you to do, or I suggest you do in Expedition to Soul. So having your quest pack together is going to just make you more likely to be able to do this stuff and succeed in doing it and not feel frustrated. So some stuff I suggest that you pack: tarot or oracle cards if you have them. If you don't, that's totally fine. You do not have to have them, but great tool if you have them, use them. A journal, your favorite pen or markers or pencils if you're artsy and creative, maybe your favorite candle. There's a ton of research around having a candle and knowing that when you light the candle, that's time for something specific. So whether this is, I've seen this in workplaces, meditation, education even. I have my backgrounds in education, and that's something that we would do for kids that struggled with reading. Even it was just kind of depending on what the struggle was, sometimes we would dim the lights a little, sometimes we would leave them, but we'd put like a candle, even if it was an electric candle, put that out on the table. And while the candle was lit, that was like the quiet time to focus on reading. And then the act of turning it off or blowing it out, like signaled, okay, I'm done, I can be free now. So it's like a tangible thing you can do that's a little more fun than a timer. So a candle for meditation, just to set the zone, like this is my expedition time, leave me alone, people. Tea bags if you're a tea drinker. If you have a favorite mug, we have our Sisters Enchanted mugs, we still have 300 of these have gone around the world. So a few hundred people at least will maybe have one of those. Any art that makes you feel at ease and just creates the space for you. The first time we did this, I used a scarf that I would put on, like a silk scarf, earbuds or music, a cozy blanket, just whatever you want to have to make your own little soul space extra special. You guys are sharing lots of things in the comments. So Brandy is saying that her husband gets so mad gets so mad at me for saying that we can only control ourselves when talking on parenting. Yes, you can only control yourself, really. My husband doesn't like where I say it either. And Crystal uses the candle for homework. Okay, so the next thing in your field guide is the map section. And these are just some suggestions, and they tend to trip people up. So that probably means that I should change the lingo, the wording on them a little bit. But you can create some maps. And the idea here is that we're just kind of, again, getting involved. So we're starting to interact with ourselves, starting to think a little bit differently about who we are, what we're doing. And if we are people that are just doing this at home, we're not able to go like abroad on this grand discovery. This helps us to create something different, right? To look at our space in our life a little bit differently right now. So the first map that you can do, you don't have to do these by any means. They're totally optional. You can do one of them, you can do all of them. Yep, Crystal, you can reuse the last ones if you want, unless you feel like something's totally different and you want to redo them. So the first one that I suggest is your living space. And this is pretty much just drawing like a map of your home, like squares or blocks or rectangles or whatever. I don't know, maybe your house is a circle, then a circle, and outlining your rooms and going through and kind of feeling what the energy of each room feels like to you and coloring it to match that energy. Now, there's no right or wrong way to do this. And particularly if you're a person coming to this expedition to soul who doesn't feel very intuitive or in touch with themselves, this can feel really challenging. And then I actually challenge you to do it, because even if you're like, oh my gosh, I'm totally just picking random colors, that is one act that you wouldn't have done before. It's one more step toward living a more intuitive and joy-filled life. You're one step closer than you were before you did that. So even if it feels really weird and you're like, I don't know, this makes no sense to me, give it a shot, because it helps like open the door a little bit. You know, you're like, okay, I think maybe I can get down with this creative, intuitive stuff. So give that a shot. And that's going to help you too to see like the energy in your house, where maybe you should and shouldn't work on your quest. If one room feels like really dark and gray, I probably wouldn't sit down and work on my quest in there. And also I would look at the room that feels maybe really light and airy in some way and see how you can make some of that go into the other room as well. The second one is the map of your own energy, which is pretty similar, and a lot of people do this one and share it. So where do you feel heavy? Where do you feel light? How does it feel like your energy is moving out of your body? Does it feel like it's wide and smooth and safe, or does it feel like it's just letting everything in and absorbing everything, maybe something in between? Again, when I do this, I pretty much just draw either like a stick figure or just like a long oblong oval-ish thing, you know, like with the top being my head and the bottom being my feet, and kind of think about how everything feels. It may be colored in different ways. Sometimes I just do it with like a pencil or a marker and like darker or lighter. There's really no right or wrong, but just sit for a moment and think like, where do I actually feel heavy in my body? Where do I feel like, okay, no, this feels light. Maybe try moving your hands around your space and feel if you feel really constricted or like jelly, or if you feel like, oh, it's like soft fluffy clouds, or it feels like nothing. Maybe it feels like nothing. And again, maybe you're watching this and you're like, Sarah, all of this seems really weird and it just feels like air in my body and I have no idea what you're talking about. That's okay too. You can totally just give it a shot and write down whatever it feels like to you, or do nothing and skip it and just listen in and maybe try it at the end. That is fine as well. The third one is the map of attachment. So this one's a little bit trickier. It's not tricky, but people find it tricky. I think I explain it maybe a little bit in a tricky way. And here is, if you were the starting point, and then X marks the spot. So think of like pirate map, right? You're in the beginning, and then X is all the way out here. What are the things that you are attached to that might get in the way of you being able to travel to future you? So you are the beginning, your start. X marks the spot is future you. And these along the way are all the things you're attached to. What's preventing you from getting to future you? And draw that map, because you're going to meet all those things, whether in the next 7 days on your quest or some other time in your quest. So some examples for me, like, I don't know, future me, once it looks a little bit different than what present Sarah looks like. But what are some of my attachments along the way? One attachment for me is the idea that, so I have a daughter who has some special needs things going on, and one of my attachments right away is that nobody else can kind of handle everything like I can. So like, I can't offload that because, you know, like I can't get a lot of help there because nobody else can do it. That is an attachment thing that I have to work on. What's another attachment thing for me? So, attachment to items. Like we have a lot, we have a small house and a lot of stuff in our house. And I'm always like, yeah, but this serves a purpose. It's good. It's perfectly good. Why would we get rid of it? But there's no room. Like things have to go. So that's an attachment thing. Attachment to like a certain, I want to pay off my student loans. I have student loans from my graduate school degree, my master's degree, and I want to pay them off a lot, right? So then that's an attachment to like current lifestyle choices and things that I don't want to give up, but I don't necessarily need, and I could be putting that money towards those loans. That's an attachment thing. So when I look through here, you know, going towards there, some things in all sorts of different relationships in my life that I would like to see changed, maybe some relationships that need to go, but I have attachment to the comfort they provide. Like, it would be very uncomfortable to just say, like, listen, this isn't working, and like X that off my list. That's very uncomfortable. So I'm attached to the comfort that I'm in that situation. So looking at what is preventing you, like all the attachments you have that are preventing you from getting to where you want to be, and mapping them out. And that can be like a really powerful and kind of scary exercise. And it doesn't mean you have to then do those things, but just getting it out of your head on a paper can be very like, whoa, that's my treasure map on paper, and it seems kind of weird and scary. But if you get it out there, then at least it's out there and it's out of your head. Whether you act on it or not, I don't know. Will I ever act on all those things? Who knows? But it's all, getting it out there is really, really, really like a great first step. So Alicia says, good family exercise. Think of this as a family as a way to make further progress towards our apartment becoming a home. How do we feel versus how we want to feel here? Yes, a lot of this stuff, you can, like pretty much everything I talk about, you can totally do with family. I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, and even my 2-year-old, like he gets in on the action, but my 5-year-old definitely is in on like everything that I do in our house, kind of energetically, full moon stuff. Last night she created her own full moon art while I did mine. I asked her what her intention was, and hers was to care for the North Pole because it's very important right now. Let's see. Crystal says this one I will redo, like this one. So many things have changed. Alicia says Hubs has PTSD, is struggling so hard, needs to identify what's standing in his way so he can work on it. Yeah, that can be, it's a powerful exercise for sure. And it can be really confronting. So if it feels too confronting, always be like, okay, I'm going to do this later. Yeah, shadow stuff for sure. All right. And Sophie's here from Anaheim, California. Hi, Sophie. Speaking of California, I have an appointment with somebody in California in 2 minutes, so I should probably wrap this up. Anyway, that's your field guide for Expedition to Soul. So once you sign up, you should get this in your email. If you signed up, it's free. It's totally free if you just caught on to this. It's absolutely free. You will, if it's not in your inbox, check your spam. Lots of our emails go to spam, unfortunately. If you can't find it there, you can always email us at magic, M-A-G-I-C, magic@thesistersenchanted.com, and we will get it to you. Email is the best way to communicate with us. You can try our Facebook page, messenger thing, and sometimes that gets lost in the realm of Facebook things, but you can do that. Email is really good though. So if you signed up, can't find it in your spam, email us, magic@thesistersenchanted.com. We'll get that to you. I hope you have an amazing Gemini full moon. Be aware of that Sagittarius sun, Gemini full moon. No arguing, people. And look at where Gemini is in your chart, because that's where it's going to be most relevant to you this last full moon of the decade. And yeah, tomorrow, Friday, December 13th, Expedition to Soul officially kicks off. If you're registered, your email will come sometime overnight. Oh, and Saturday is my birthday. And if you're in Expedition to Soul, keep your eyes peeled, because we are scattering fun giveaways and celebrations throughout the day, because who doesn't love to celebrate a birthday? And I will celebrate mine by creating a party on the Expedition to Soul internet. All right, it's 9 a.m. and I have a date with somebody on a video chat. So I'm going to run off to that. I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks for listening to me, and I'll see you all tomorrow for Expedition to Soul. Bye.